Have unlimited too. Plus, get $200 back when you buy a new smartphone. It's simple, easy, awesome. Click, call, or visit the store today.
Good morning, America. Breaking news. President Trump about to meet with world leaders as that Russia investigation bombshell unfolds. His former fixer, personal attorney Michael Cohen, reaches a deal with the special counsel, now admitting he lied to Congress about a Trump Moscow hotel to protect Trump. The president now bashes Cohen.
He's a weak person and not a very smart person.
And why he canceled a meeting with Putin tomorrow.
Also this morning, major mudslides rocking the West, this big rig dangling over the side of a highway, and the daring helicopter rescue, now that major storm heading east.
Confession of a killer. The stunning new video released overnight, the moment Chris Watts admits he killed his wife.
I just felt nothing. I didn't feel anything.
Prosecutors releasing dozens of videos from their investigation and what they say the woman he had an affair with searched for online.
Absolute panic. The 8-year-old bitten by a shark on family vacation.
Panic. Absolute panic.
Now telling his story.
And would you pay more for Paylessy? Exclusive new footage behind the scenes of that Payless prank, how they tricked fashion influencers into paying hundreds of dollars for shoes that cost way less, and the shock when these fashionistas found out.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. It's great to have you with us on this Friday morning, and I'm sure we've all overpaid for a few things, but never
I've
paid
never
less.
paid a lot for shoes. Never.
Okay.
Cecilia in the seat of honor this morning.
It is great to be here, and what a huge news day you had yesterday. A big break for this, you and the team.
It was a big news day, big bombshell, repercussions for the president. That's what we're going to get to right now. New questions for the president as he meets with world leaders in Argentina today. This summit comes on the heels, as C was just saying, of that Russia investigation bombshell, placing Trump at the center of an effort to build a tower in Moscow during his presidential campaign. President's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, now admitting he lied about it to Congress to protect his boss. Our chief White House correspondent, John Carlo, in Buenos Aires with the president. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. With a whirlwind 2 days of diplomatic meetings just getting underway now here in Argentina, there is a new reality weighing on the Trump presidency. The president's longtime confidant, Michael Cohen, has spent 70 hours in interviews with special counsel Robert Mueller.
As the president takes the world stage this morning here in Argentina, signing a new trade deal with Canada and Mexico, and a high-stakes meeting to prevent a trade war with China, he's facing mounting troubles back home.
Michael Cohen!
President Trump's longtime fixer has now gone state's witness. Michael Cohen entering a plea agreement with special counsel Robert Mueller. It's a move with massive implications for the special counsel investigation and perhaps the Trump presidency. Cohen has admitted lying to Congress about working during the 2016 campaign to strike a deal to build a Trump tower in Moscow. And he says he was lying to protect his longtime boss, Donald Trump. As the president left the White House for Argentina, he lashed out at his former fixer.
He's a weak person and not a very smart person. Very simply, Michael Cohen is lying, and he's trying to get a reduced sentence for things that have nothing to do with me.
But at the same time, the president did not deny trying to pull together the Moscow deal, even as he was campaigning for president.
When I run for president, that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to do business. I was doing a lot of different things when I was running. After I won, obviously, I don't do business.
For more than 2 years, Trump has repeatedly insisted he has had no business ties with Russia.
But zero. I mean, I will tell you right now, zero. I have nothing to do with Russia.
But throughout his campaign and into his presidency, President Trump has talked about the need for the U.S. government to have closer ties with Russia.
Wouldn't it be great if we actually got along with Russia? Wouldn't it be great? Is there anything wrong with it?
He says he ditched the Moscow project in early 2016 before he clinched the Republican nomination. But he says he didn't have to.
There would be nothing wrong if I did do it. I was running my business while I was campaigning. There was a good chance that I wouldn't have won, in which case I would have gone back into the business. And why should I lose lots of opportunities?
And while the president was on Air Force One flying down here to Argentina, another surprise, he abruptly canceled his planned meeting with Vladimir Putin. He was going to meet with him right here, a very highly anticipated meeting, George, and the president said he was calling it off because of Russian aggression in Ukraine.
Okay, John Carl, thanks very much. Speaking our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. We just saw in the piece of the president saying this had nothing to do with him. One of the reasons this plea is so important is because it does put the president right at the center of this effort.
Right, and the question becomes why? Right, we've talked about this before, this idea that this is a piece in the puzzle. This isn't the proof of collusion. This isn't the smoking gun. But the question becomes, why did the president, if Cohen's telling the truth, want to move the date back from June to January? Why is that 6-month period so important? And the answer would be, if it's true, that he didn't want to be seen as talking to Russia during the period right when you've got all the hacking. You've got the meeting with Don Jr. This is the heart of the contacts and the problems with the Russians is happening in June.
And it gets to another important thing that Mueller and reporters have uncovered now over the last year and a half. When it comes to Russia, whether the issue is contacts or building the Trump Tower in Moscow or the Attorney General talking to a Russian ambassador during the campaign, Don Jr. having this meeting, every single time it starts out with a lie. Then the lie is uncovered. Mueller's job is to find out why.
Well, and also Mueller's job is to put them all together, right? Because you can't look at each one in isolation. You can't say to yourself, Flynn, what does Flynn's single lie tell us? That's not the question. The question is, what does Flynn's lie tell us in connection with the other lies? Why is everyone seemingly distancing themselves from either conversations they had, meetings, etc., with Russians? What was going on? And that's the question, the big picture question Mueller has to answer.
The other important takeaway, we now know Michael Cohen has implicated the president in campaign finance felonies. That was in his previous case. Yeah. He's now implicated the president in Trump Tower. And as John said right at the start, we reported yesterday, he spent 70 hours with Mueller's team. This is not over.
Right. And so knowing how close Michael Cohen was to Donald Trump, you know Donald Trump has to be worked. I mean, regardless of what we already know already, the idea that one of his closest confidants, and remember, attorney-client privilege only applies to legal work. It doesn't
Not business work.
It doesn't apply to business work. So he can talk about any business contacts that the president had, and that's got to be unnerving.
Dan Abrams, thanks very much. Michael?
All right, George, now to those dangerous storms out west. Relentless rain forcing mandatory evacuations and triggering powerful mudslides. And it's happening in those areas already affected and devastated by wildfires. ABC's Will Carr is in Agora Hills, California with the very latest. Good morning, Will.
Michael, the sandbags are out this morning because this is really a double-edged sword. You already had those wildfires which burned the trees that normally stop all that rock and mud from flowing down into communities like this that have already been devastated. And now that we're getting that much-needed rain, we're also getting those dangerous mudslides. Raging mudslides sweeping across parts of California scorched by wildfires, trapping cars, washing out roads, and forcing evacuations.
Just a lot of mud coming down at a very rapid rate of speed now here in Rice Canyon.
The fragile, fire-scarred hillsides crumbling after a nonstop deluge. The region bone dry and thirsty for rain, getting so much precipitation so quickly.
It was bad. We almost lost our whole driveway to there.
Roads inundated. The rain-slicked streets seeing crash after crash. Some areas getting enough rain to bury highway signs. This big rig left dangling off the side of the highway, cars flipped over and flattened, 4 firefighters injured when a car spun out and crashed into their truck. This man, overwhelmed by the raging waters of the LA River, airlifted to safety. Emergency services continuing to tell residents to evacuate, but as the threat continues to grow, some residents choosing to stay.
If we do, we're going to lose it. If we don't, we can fight it, which is what we've been doing.
Well, the rain has let up. We're expecting more in the region this weekend and into next week. Cecilia.
Okay, Will, thank you. And as we saw, those wildfires were just devastating. The Camp Fire alone in Northern California ravaged more than 18,000 buildings. The death toll now stands at 88, and nearly 200 people are still unaccounted for, even as the official search for the missing has been stopped. And now this morning, we are seeing new body cam footage from a first responder who turned on that camera thinking it would be recording his final moments. Thankfully, he survived, and our chief national correspondent Matt Gutman has more also from Agora Hills. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Cecilia. Deputy Aaron Parmley refused to let those 4 nurses be part of that statistic that you just mentioned, nearly 200 unaccounted for. And when his police cruiser broke down, he proceeded on foot through that hellstorm to find them.
Deputy Aaron Parmley thought this video would document his last minutes alive. Overnight, the Butte County Sheriff's Office releasing his body camera video from the campfire. He was assigned to evacuate 4 nurses at the Feather Rivers Hospital from the hellscape earlier this month.
Oh, that's not good.
You can hear people cry out for help. A hurricane of fire had turned the sky blood orange. Along with the nurses, they cling to that oven-hot road in a blizzard of embers.
It's bad. Are they coming for us?
The air so choked with smoke, you can't tell this rescue vehicle is a bulldozer till they hop on. Finally, another fire truck pulls up and they pile in.
We're on the dozer.
And even when they got into those vehicles, they still weren't sure they were going to survive. They still had to drive through a tunnel of fire just to get to safety. Now, what's incredible about this video, it looks like it was shot in the nighttime, but everything you just saw was shot between the hours of 8:30 and 10 in the morning, George.
Boy, that is just stunning. There's a picture of a hero in hell right there, doing an amazing job. Matt, thanks very much. Yeah. We're going to move on now to a deadly crash at the border. 3 people killed, 8 injured when a pickup truck hitting 100 miles an hour flipped over, trying to flee the Border Patrol. ABC's Kana Whitworth has the latest. Good morning, Kana.
Yeah, George, good morning. So agents near the border, of course, on high alert. The crash happened in rural San Diego County, and most of the 11 people in the pickup truck were in the back without seatbelts. 3 people killed and nearly everyone else recovering from injuries.
A high-speed chase ending in a fatal crash near the San Diego-Mexico border. This new video showing the terrifying aftermath. At 4:30 Thursday, Border Patrol agents attempting to pull over a white pickup truck, but instead of stopping, the driver taking off, leading agents on a 100-mile-an-hour chase. The border agents laying out a spike strip to stop the truck. But the spikes sending the vehicle airborne, the pickup truck flipping over with 11 passengers, many of whom were laying in the truck's flatbed. The crash ejecting all of the passengers, killing 3. The rest transported to the hospital with injuries.
Now, the driver, who is a U.S. citizen, was not injured and is currently in custody. George.
Thanks very much, Kana.
All right, George, we've got to turn to some breaking news, Justin. Marriott International revealing a data breach that could affect up to 500 million guests who made reservations at Starwood Properties. For 327 million of these guests, the information includes some combination of name, mailing addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, passport numbers, and more. Marriott is investigating right now. Michael?
All right, thank you, Cecilia. Now to an ABC News exclusive involving new developments in that hazing scandal in Maryland, where 4 high school football players were accused of sexually assaulting freshman players. ABC's Stephanie Ramos is in Damascus, Maryland, with the latest. Good morning, Stephanie.
Michael, good morning. The incident allegedly happened October 31st here at Damascus High School. The targets said to be younger and weaker players who were ambushed by the suspects before football practice. This morning, 4 sophomore football players from this suburban Maryland high school have been indicted for allegedly participating in the sexual assault of 4 younger teammates in their locker room.
The maximum penalties by law are up to life imprisonment.
The state's attorney telling ABC News exclusively a grand jury handed down 8 counts against each of the 4 15-year-olds, charging them all as adults for sexual assault, attempted assault, and conspiracy to commit assault. Authorities now investigating the possibility that this is not the first incident at Damascus High School. Investigators say one of the suspects told them it was a so-called tradition. Parents and students at Damascus shocked.
Even if it was tradition, it shouldn't be tradition at all. You know, sexual assault.
It's been a learning experience for both the students as well as the parents in the community to try to wrap their head around these events and take the necessary steps to make sure it doesn't happen in the future.
The prosecutor says he hopes the severity of the charges will spark change.
By sending this to the grand jury and by indicting these teens, are you hoping to send a wider message to the community, to teenagers?
I'm not looking to send a message to anybody beyond the boys that were the victims in this case and those who committed these crimes, that there will be accountability when you engage in the kind of activities that these boys engaged in. And, we'll try to bring some sense of justice to these boys that were violated.
There's also a fifth student accused in all of this. He's being charged as a juvenile. Now, before the indictment, I spoke with the attorney for one of the suspects. He wanted all of the teens to be charged as juveniles, despite the gruesome details revealed earlier this week. As for the school district, they say they'll now handle their own investigation now that police has wrapped up their own. And Michael, they also say they'll take a closer look at their athletics program. Michael.
All right, the whole thing just makes you shake your head in disbelief. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Cecilia?
It certainly does. We want to turn now to new details in that deadly New Jersey mansion fire. The suspect accused of killing his own brother, sister-in-law, niece, and nephew is now set to appear in court today. ABC's Lindsay Davis is outside that courthouse there in Colts Neck, New Jersey. And now, Lindsay, police believe a money dispute could be at the center of this.
Good morning to you, Cecilia. Exactly right. Prosecutors say that they believe that Paul Canero was motivated by money. His younger brother, Keith, was also his business partner for several decades. And now authorities say that just days before Thanksgiving, Paul Canero shot his own brother several times, then killed his brother's wife and his 2 children before setting a fire in the basement of their home. And then about an hour later, the DA says that Paul Canero started a fire at his own home with his wife and daughters inside. They were all able to escape unharmed. Prosecutors say that it was all a ruse. They allege that he was trying to make it seem like both Canero families were being targeted. As you said, Cecilia, Paul is expected to appear in court here today, where he plans to plead not guilty to all charges. If convicted on those 4 murder counts, he faces life in prison. Cecilia.
You'll be following that one for us, Lindsay. Okay, thank you.
Now, do you guys swim with sharks?
Never.
No.
Okay. Well, this is just a story for you. There's a shark attack that was caught on camera. A family vacationing in the Bahamas, swimming with nurse sharks, which are typically considered tame, when one of them suddenly bit their 8-year-old son. And now he's telling his story. Let's take a look.
We were in the Bahamas, and one of the stops were to swim with nurse sharks. There was one at my feet, and I jumped over it, and then another one came up behind me and went. At first, I thought it was my dad pretending, and then I was like, nope, my flesh. Then, absolute panic. And my sister was screaming, I want to get out, I want to get out. It's fine. My dad pulled it off, he picked me up, he brought me to the ladder. Like, adults were like climbing up the ladder before me, and I was like, really, guys?
Such a cute kid. We're glad he's okay. Definitely glad he's okay. And believe it or not, he said he would go back in the water with the sharks.
You can tell he's a brave little guy.
Yes, he is.
Very, very calm. I gotta
Braver
say,
than us.
well, number one, and number two, they kept filming it the whole time. Go grab the kid.
We've seen that too many times.
We have seen that too many times. Let's go to Rob.
Never stop rolling, George. Keep rolling regardless. All right, there's a debris flow out of the Holy Fire in Rice County. Look how black that water is from all the charred landscape, and we're still dealing with that. This next system about to come in, and this current system getting into the plains, a severe weather threat tonight, Dallas to Little Rock to New Orleans, tomorrow getting across the Gulf Coast, and over a foot of snow potentially in Nebraska. Time now for your weekend getaways, brought to you by Walmart.com.
Another Friday with rain, but we're not going to get much today. We are going to be overcast, a little spotty shower. Temperatures today will rise from the lower 40s at lunchtime to 44 to 46 degrees during the afternoon. Now, this weekend, not bad. We'll have some rain, heavier, coming in during your afternoon hours on Saturday midday through the evening, but Sunday's high 68 with a spotty shower. Next weekend right now looking like it's going to be cold with maybe a wintry mix coming through the area on Saturday.
Coming up, new video just released shows the stunning confession of a killer. Why that father says he killed his wife.
And the mom taking on Southwest after a gate agent appeared to mock her daughter's very unusual name.